Welcome back, guys. In the studio today, Hero Labs, DeltaFi, round 2. Today, Gunny joining us here on the set. We got Cryptomessiah, we got Rob Levy, president of Hero, the whole squad, and your host, co-host RT here. On a volatile day, we got the Solana flippening starting to kick off this week, heating up, stealing a lot of thunder in the market, pumping double digits on dump day Monday. And maps today taking off in the wake of it, getting those echo pumps we talked about. How are you guys doing today?
We're great.
Feels good, man.
Feels really good.
Seems like there's money flowing. I mean, in what's been risk off. I mean, yesterday it was bloody red. I mean, you're looking in your trading view and you're seeing every other altcoin down 20+%. Bitcoin getting smoked. Man, it felt bad yesterday, but we did get a little bounce back today. And like you said, there's some standouts. When you see coins that are pumping when the shit is cratering, that's a good sign.
Are we getting smoked? Is Bitcoin really getting smoked, or is it just like? Is it 60,000 to 50,000?
No, it's not getting smoked. It's mainly for me, like it's even more painful just because we're not used to having periods of drawdown. You know, we're just coming off of this dopamine high from January. Just about everybody made pretty good money on altcoins and things like that. And now, you see Bitcoin with, I think, a 24% peak to valley move, and Ethereum with over a 30% peak to valley move. But as I've discussed before, like this really isn't anything outside of the ordinary. And even further downside would still be within the realm of the ordinary. So, does it suck? Yes. Even for guys that have been here a long time, it's not a fun situation. But it's also one of those things that you have to just understand that the macro conditions are very bullish still. The macro structure on the chart is very bullish. We still have Biden bucks on the way, presumably. Coming in March, we still have further printing by the Fed. We still have more institutions that are interested in putting some more of their balance sheet into Bitcoin. We've just heard the news, I think yesterday, that Square has purchased additional Bitcoin for their balance sheet at an average of $50,000 per Bitcoin or something like that. So it's just one of those things where you have to just kind of wait it out. And I always tell people, right now is as good a time as any to go ahead and shift some things around, put yourself in the best position possible for this next leg to the upside. Find the outliers, find what's on support, find strength, rotate from, higher risk to lower risk. For example, I've got a Bancor bag that's held up extremely well during all of this. If I was able to, it might be a good idea. I can't because I'm staking, to go ahead and take something that's performing really well and rotate that down to something that is, negative 50% and in the value by area.
Yeah, I was actually underwhelmed by this dip, having done a nice chunk of profit take on the weekend. I was really excited to buy these dips, and I started getting into Solana and Serum. Thank God on Monday I was like, I'll just buy a little here. Didn't realize they were going to pump that day, but no dips on the bags that I wanted, dips on the most. And to quote my little cousin, who I'm so proud of today, I got him into crypto only in the last 6 months, and he texted me today. He's like, "Is that it? That is a pussy dip." He's like, "I was hoping to load up. What the hell kind of dip was that? 20%. Give me 40." So he's a little disappointed, but couldn't be prouder of him.
I think one of the important things to take away from it is like there's all this new capital inflow that's here. There's likely to be a hell of a lot more, and Bitcoin still has the ability to shit the bed, and like,
let's check the charts, Johnny. 20%,
it's meaningful. It does, like, for people that have been here for a long time, it doesn't feel nearly as bad because you're like, well, wait a minute, in March we were worried it was about to go to zero and traded down to $3,300 or whatever. But now it's like it's kind of at that point where, like, okay, they just went from like basically 3,000 to 60,000. Like, I'll take value being created, like, from a price discovery perspective. You get a delevering of the market, and you kind of fall back into a consolidation at fucking 50,000. Like, What the fuck are people crying about?
It's so true. You're crying about falling back into a chop zone of 40,000 to 60,000.
By the way, the trading at these, when you're in like mid 5-figure territory, is incredible. Like a three,
that's
4, 5, 6, 7, $10,000 range would be. You trade that all day. It would be the greatest trading market in the history of mankind.
That's it. I mean, look, a little long, put on yesterday, got it on Twitter, chaos PRZ lows coming in, bullish divergence. I was like, fuck it, I'll take a shot in this reload zone. And that's a 4K move. And it barely retraced anything. I'm laughing, you just tiny little risk down here at the lows.
Noise.
And I was like, holy shit. I mean, that was, you can get some size in there on a 4K move.
What feels the overwhelming, powerful feeling of this is watching the leverage traders and the liquidations. Like liquidations are now becoming a true mainstream topic in crypto news. Like the block, everyone, you need to be first to report how many liquidations on Binance in the last hour. That's stuff that people are now talking about. To me, it's amazing that we've come there, but the liquidations feel they hurt people. They hurt, and it is a product of there's a lot of leverage that pumps into the system, comes out, but it's it is a fact of life. That's traders going to trade.
I mean, as the market continues, I think we can expect to continue seeing this turbulence that the presence of leverage has created in this run. I don't recall 2017 having $4 billion worth of liquidations over a 1 or 2 day period. I mean, this is definitely something that has always been around, but is going on to a much greater extent now. Which is really interesting. I feel like in 2017, a lot of people ended up making it. And that's just because what you did, if you wanted to be a degenerate, is you bought shit coins and you held on to them. And then at a certain point, you look at your portfolio and you go, oh my God, I'm rich. How did that happen? And that's if you can withstand, the drawdowns and the pain.
It happened because you bought Potcoin on 420.
And shit just went up. Things are definitely different now. But one thing that hasn't changed is I don't think that there's many people out there that can beat straight up buy and hold performance on shitcoins over the next couple of months. I mean, you can try to sell the highs, you can try to sell the lows. You're never going to sell the tops. So the likelihood of you actually outperforming a buy and hold in something like a shitcoin, because you're leverage trading, there's a lot of risk that comes with, a potential to outperform. And with the odds stacked against you like that, it just doesn't make much sense to me. That's why, I always say shitcoins are already leveraged. There's no reason to leverage your leverage. There's no reason to get too greedy. Just buy a fucking video game. Play some video games, sit on your hands, and see what happens.
Yeah, if you need the rush, go take $10 and put it on Bust a Bit.
Yeah. Well, and that's what people forget is that when you have an altcoin that drops versus USD, or that drops versus Bitcoin, while Bitcoin's pulling back 4, 6K, something like 8K, whatever it was, 10K from the top, you get nuked. And most people, they don't look at a chart. They don't look at, setups and levels. They're just staring at a dollar value in a portfolio. So they refresh and it's down 80K. They refresh again, it's down 300K. And then they just shit themselves because they don't realize that that's a 20% drawdown on an altcoin on a trading against an asset that just drew down 25%.
I think it's so important to, if you're not trading off of algorithmically off of quantitative signals, that you pay attention to the bounces and kind of the relative power or exuberance of a bounce relative to news that's in and kind of where we're at in cycle and whatnot. And I think you saw the last few days, how many of us, I guarantee anyone who's a trader out of the 200 plus people that are watching, plus all of us, you started to look at charts. I was kind of joking to myself. I was like, oh, it's time to go to a log chart, because there were, or I would sit on my chart and try to pinch it down and be like, oh, it's not parabolic. You do all these things to kind of look at it just to fuck with yourself. But the reality was these were the ascents were so steep and so fast, and gravity gets hold of those things. And like the question is like, this is a time where pretty much everything is in price discovery. And when there's price discovery, you got to think about it like an auction. And like what an auction is, like, think about like, you know, if they were auctioning off a piece of art or something, and like you're going to keep going higher in price until there's nobody left, and then that buyer is going to get it. So eventually what happens, the buyers have heavily outweighed the sellers. It auctions higher. Eventually, either the buyers just tire out or the sellers overwhelm them, and you get a fallback. And the big question to me now is like that Rob and I were talking about at the beginning is like, where do you settle in? Like, where do we start building value again? And you'll start to see that, like, you know, I think like you have that chart up, you can see some of the profiles on the right side. Like you'll start to see like a bell curve form. Around areas where we're going to start consolidating. And what that's telling you is that the market is in balance. So it's found a range. Buyers and sellers are kind of like fighting it out. And until there's some new catalyst to drive it one way or the other, which could be inflows of money, it could be like, okay, we're ready for another leg up. It could be technical, who knows? Like all of those things will determine, you know, at what point will the buyers overcome the sellers and start to auction higher again.
You know, one thing that's really interesting that I've been discussing on my solo streams is just the timeline similarities between 2020 and 2017. And as of this moment, you know, this could be entirely coincidental. But in 2017, early January, I would say most people would say Altseason began. And from early January to early February, most things went about 5 to 10x. And I still remember, you know, back then, the emotions that I went through, you know, after seeing everything dump for so long. There was bear market PTSD. And then after those, you know, initial pumps, you know, people started saying, wow, you know, was that Altseason? You know, is that it? We were happy to get it. You know, we didn't know what was coming. We didn't know what was possible. But interestingly enough, after that first week in February, things topped out and the vast majority of things pulled back about 50%, which is timeline-wise the exact same timeline as we're seeing here in 2021. We're now at the point in time where things are retraced around 50%. And interestingly enough, in 2017, bottoms occurred for many of these altcoins around the 22nd or 23rd of February. So I'm watching this with interest. I don't know at this point if this is entirely a coincidence, if there's something to this, if there's something here. But if we do see the market starting to bottom around here after negative 50% on the 22nd or the 23rd, I don't think we can ignore those similarities moving forward. And the good news is that just about anything you were holding went an extra 5 or 10x after that 50% drawdown, if you were able to survive. And Altseason actually lasted through June. So if all of the timelines continue to be similar, if all the timelines continue to match up, then we could potentially be seeing, you know, bullish price action on these altcoins for another 3, even 4 months.
Oh, that is music to my ears. I mean,
I don't think it's over. Not by a long shot. I mean, this to me was a coming out party. It was overextended.
This is the test pump.
Yeah, there was writing on the wall too. I mean, you know, we put out a weekly newsletter each week, and the flavor last week was like, look, we've come into chaos levels on every index. There's the slightest bit of exhaustion. I mean, it was the first sort of chink in the armor for the DeFi perp that we had seen all year. And markets don't go in a straight line. That's not news. That's not new. And look at how effective this was at shaking people out. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. You wanted to sell something there because coming off the top that you had just made in the last week, I think in the last 3 weeks, people probably made equal to anything they made in the last 8 combined. And then they just lost it all in one day. And that's going to continue.
Somebody asked if Brandon Fraser's at the desk.
That's hilarious. Well, here's the thing that makes me so excited and warm and fuzzy inside And it's the fact that a company, MicroStrategy, okay, a publicly held company, can raise $1 billion in a day, probably less than a day, and they can go and buy Bitcoin with it. They are structuring debt that has real demand, and it's got demand from high net worth individuals, from family offices, institutional investors, retail investors, and they literally just bought $1 billion more Bitcoin at 52,000. And you're telling me that
I love that.
We're nervous about what's going to happen to Bitcoin? It doesn't matter Bitcoin. If we get a leverage washout to 40 to 35, there is demand for this. They're going to be in there buying it.
What do you guys think has to happen to, to mitigate or to, do away with this bear market PTSD? Yet so many people seem to have, I'm feeling that bear market PTSD. Like that shit haunts me every day. I trudge forward, because I'm a believer, because for me, it's 10x or wrecked. There's really no in between. And I'm going for the gold here. But, I can see like looking at this right now, like having that bear market PTSD, being a holder, on February 24th is not something that's easy to do.
I think, yeah,
it's always lingering in your head. Like, what if?
Yeah. What if that was the top? Am I going to live through that again? Because it was a long winter. It's funny you say that because I've been thinking about this a lot. And, one of the things I thought was interesting is that suddenly all the influencers, and I'm going to say all of them, a lot of influencers were talking about paying themselves, pay yourself, take profit, don't ever hold through the bear market again. That's not euphoria. That's not mania. And that is, it's very sensible advice. And it's something we've been talking a lot about, pay yourself at these peaks so that you can either buy the dips or not stress about it. You don't give a shit because you just got paid. But look, through these kinds of cycles, and I was struggling with it last year. Up through here, I had way too much cash in my portfolio. I was like little bits of long, little bits of Bitcoin, but I wasn't aping in. I was still scared as shit. But that kind of changed as we got higher and higher, more and more. And I think we're going to see that continue to change, right? We just had sort of our first, I think, end to that sort of fake out, breakout leg one. Probably a little slow grind here. And looking back to last cycle, the way it works is you basically call, guys are calling tops. And by the time the top comes in, you've just learned, you've been programmed to buy the dip. Every single time that you sold something on the dip thinking it had been a top, you got punished for it because you just watched your bag 5x afterwards or whatever.
No, here's the thing. Right now, a lot of people are still saying the top is 100K stock to flow. When we get near the top, that's when everybody is going to start moving those goalposts. To where Bitcoin is now $70,000, $80,000, and now people are saying, we're gonna go to 150, and then Bitcoin's at 150, and now people start talking, we're gonna flip gold. That's a huge indication of top to me, at least.
You get the absurd things, but what is your narrative at those points, right? How are you sitting at a 300K, 100K, and suddenly guys are saying, no, it's going to 1 million this cycle. And I think that's where you get into countries. I saw a funny tweet. It was a couple months ago. I said, which country is going to be the first government to put a little Bitcoin on their balance sheet? And once that happens, cat's out of the bag, you're going to get these crazy price predictions.
There's not really a risk of top even until we see, a level of greed that exists in the entire crypto market, not just in like isolated cases. And we have seen, certain things that are outliers that have pumped well beyond anything else. But when you look at the market as a whole and you look at every altcoin chart versus Bitcoin, that just doesn't look like the top of a bubble to me. It looks like early stage reversals. And here's the thing. You can get a fucking 10x on Ethereum. You could get a 10x on Bitcoin. There's people that have bagged a 10x on Bitcoin over the last year. The whole point of altcoins is that you're going to significantly, for a window, outperform Bitcoin. So if altcoins can't even, make you 10x richer, what the fuck is even the point of altcoins? And I don't think that we've seen the altcoin greed play out in a way to where people feel true euphoria. Am I really fucking excited my portfolio is up 5x? Yeah. But at the same time, when you think about what constitutes true euphoria, maybe that would be my portfolio being up 20, 30, 40x. I'd be feeling myself then. Trust me. I'm pretty sure my ego would be, bigger than the entire world by that point. But it just doesn't feel like we're at a point in time to where there's this irrational exuberance. People are scared. People are worried. Nobody's rich as fuck yet. Like, come on.
No. So, look at this, dude. This is leg one. I mean, just take Neo, for example. I mean, Neo, random old shitcoin, Chinese Ethereum, it's going to have its run. Does that look like a top, man? Look at this bottom. Look at this consolidation. Close. And then it's like a huge breakout.
That's even a USD chart.
Yeah, that's a USD chart. I mean, huge volume coming in. So when you zoom out on this and somebody's saying, well, it's been fun, pack it up. I mean, yeah, we can consolidate here. We can even pull back a bit. But there's no way it's like, pack it up. This $300 million treasury they have is just going to go to rest. Like, fuck that.
That's going to reverse. Like, come on.
Go ahead, Robbie. Say your piece. I got to on this.
Tech. I don't know about you guys, but we're in it for the tech, the fucking immediate settlement. We don't want any bullshit like Robinhood 2-day settlement. I fucking was a trader. I can't hold a 10x. I'd have to hide the wallet, hide everything. We're being a market maker for all those years. You're looking for little wins, and a lot of those. I would die to have diamond hands like Messi, be able to hold something for a 10x, 100x. How do you not sell that when it's up 10x? I don't even get it.
I do. I rotate a lot.
You gotta have a few screws loose is the answer.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, paying yourself, rotating a little bit helps.
Yes.
Like if you put some money in the bank, then it's coming into Monday, I was just like buy because I wasn't feeling wrecked. And that's a new thing for me. I've not usually taken my own advice. I often see things, I'm like, oh, that looks a little bearish, I'll hold through.
I think
but when you come in with cash on those days, it's so sexy. You're just like feasting.
Yeah. I have two thoughts. One, on the PTSD side, like you got to zoom out is the first step. Number two is like a market doesn't top the way we've pulled back in the last few days. It just doesn't. Like it's rare. Like there's an old saying that you can't turn a aircraft carrier at port. And like what that means is that it takes a hell of a long time to just turn a market and send it from a bull into a bear. And like, do you kind of have these like, we got a little bit of intraday vol right now. That's maybe one signal, but like nothing to me is lining up that this is anywhere near the top. It doesn't mean that we're going to get I'm licking my chops at a 30% pullback right now. I know the difference. I've been doing this for 25 fucking years. Like I know the difference. And what will also happen, mark my words, is that we will retest the high.
Yes.
And fail miserably before you can have any confirmation. Like this, you will get higher prices from where we are today. If we go back up and
we're going down,
fail and then break new lows, like then I would be worried that we're starting a new trend. That's one. That's just Bitcoin. Second point to Bitcoin is this is a time where we're getting to a phase where there are some fundamental elements here that you have to be able to look out into the future a bit. And like the smarter market participants that you get, they do, like the stock market, even though it's spot, is pricing in value of a name. Oh, now who knows what the fuck, but like generally the idea is that it's looking 6 months out, right? It's looking 6 to 9 months out into the future, actually. And so the more sophisticated players that you're going to get into the market here, those guys are going to start, like the ones who are taking big corporate balance sheet positions or speculative positions, like in size that could really move a market around, big funds and stuff. They're going to start looking at this in a way that, they will shave positions. Like you'll definitely notice things happening. You'll see narratives changing, but like there's nothing here that's pointing me to that. Interest rates staying low. Like when you start to see real hawkish commentary out of the FOMC and like high probability of going from like 0 to 25 to 25 to 50 or to 50 to 75 basis points from the Fed, like I would start, that would be something that would go, okay, box checked, start to look technically, start to see like what are big flows doing. And at that point, I would start to think like, okay, can't turn the aircraft carrier at port. This isn't just going to go south. Like it's going to start going higher again, or it's going to kind of finish like its program buys or do what it needs to do. And at that point, I would start thinking about, okay, what do I want to do here? That's one. Two, stronger dollar will probably lead a sell-off in Bitcoin to, more than anything in my mind too. And so you got to take those elements into account now, where it's not just about price and just about the chart. And I think that could really help, stay on the right side of the market for now. And then the other thing I want to say that, Messiah made a really good point about, something about Bitcoin with altcoins, and you guys were putting charts up. Maybe one narrative to think about is like, we had a alt to USD significant move. And when you look at a lot of the charts, are kind of set up to break out against Bitcoin now. And so maybe there's this concept of like the second wave of the altcoin rally really is versus Bitcoin and not so much against the dollar. Something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I like that your comment about the dollar. This is actually something I just learned in this past year, to keep an eye on the Dixie. I mean, look at 2017. It was, was it a Bitcoin bull or was it a US dollar bear? And then when it ended, like pretty much within a month, Dixie's here, whole bear market, Bitcoin's not that great. Suddenly we got another bull market. We're at this key level. We're consolidating here while Bitcoin rallies and the Dixie's basically flat. So we could see a paradigm shift. I've heard people speculating on that even, we could even see the Dixie climb up here. And if that decoupled, where the Dixie can climb a bit and Bitcoin stays kind of strong, that would be a whole new paradigm.
You want your Dixie to climb?
I like it when the Dixie up. So, I mean, we'll see. Who knows? I mean, I like your comments about the previous top. We talk a lot about this on Hero Labs Live. You just don't tend to get like, oh, there it is, we're done, and go straight down. I mean, sometimes, you zoom out on the weekly and it looks straight down, but you're going to have the argument, right? You're going to have the debate on the chart. And what has been going on for the whole last year during 2017 was dip buyers were rewarded. So when the top comes in, there will be a wave of dip buyers because they're all betting on more. And it's not until that retest of the highs, like you said, which in this case is this short reload zone, a great tool to find those. That's where the real argument takes place. That's where the decisions are made. And if you fast forward to today, we're not there yet. We gotta move up here. We've just got part one. So if you really, and we talked about this on the Monday update here on our Twitter. If we really want to get a top in here and somebody wants to call for that, this is where you have that decision. Even if we go straight down here, cool. Over the next few weeks, you would fade back up, squeeze those shorts. Nobody gets rewarded for a late, lazy ass short from here. Then you have your debate. Then you have your argument, and we'll see what happens. But not here.
I think the last point too is, and Rob and I probably are more in the same camp because we've been at this for so long. Like, I'm kind of emotionally numb at this point to significant market moves, and like, it's taken me for like I was a fucking crazy man. Like when I was trading stocks like 20 years ago, like broken keyboards and like every down move was like nuclear holocaust. Like, and really now I'm much more like able to kind of sit back and be a lot less emotional about getting out of things, getting in things, not thinking about like, really trying to remove myself from the money and talking, and kind of focusing a little more on like, what are we looking at? Like what got us into, even when you look at it from like, Hero Network and like going on Solana, like it's the same kind of concept for me. Like everybody was on ETH. Everyone was talking about ETH. You looked at Solana and Solana made so much sense for what our needs are. And like, you looked at Solana's price, like from a token perspective, relative to the rest of the market. Like no one was looking at it. It just made a ton of sense. And like, you're going to tell me that like Sam Fried, Jump Trading, like all the biggest players in financial markets, like are getting behind this incredible L1. Like we're getting behind it. There's some mismatch between the fundamental narrative and like everyone just hasn't caught up yet. And like, that's kind of like, when you can kind of sit back and think like that on these things, you're not gonna be right every time, but definitely helps.
I think one of the things about, you say how you're kind of more numb because you've been doing it for so long. I feel the same way, but what gets me into that same state of mind is Twitter. I mean, if you're following a Twitter feed and you're watching all the leverage traders and you're watching crypto Twitter react to these moves, you will feel like you are fucking manic, and you're wondering, should I dump? Should I, like, that gets you going with the true emotion, that animal spirit that like we used to see in the trading pit. Like now you're sitting in your own room. We used to stand around 200 other guys who were sweating and stinky and all like in their own emotional and psychological roller coaster, all together in the same place. That's like what crypto Twitter is to me. It can make you like feel a lot more manic. I mean, there's no question about it. And when Bitcoin is getting manic, then you can definitely bet that alts are going to get extremely, extremely manic. And yeah,
I actually, Daniel, Messiah, I loved your tweet last weekend where you're like, this laser eye shit is top stuff, guys. And I laughed, I had just put the laser eyes in my display pic, and it's not really about cause and effect for me. Like, these laser eyes are the reason it top, but it was a great signal. And I fully agree with you. And it was actually part of what factored in.
Crypto Twitter has done something similar, 3 or 4 different times. We did the Bogdanovs one time. We did Pepe's another time. I'm sure there's something there that I'm leaving out, but typically, like, and I think it's just a reflection of the actual mental state of the people that are participating in the market. Like, hey guys, let's everybody get on and let's all like be in this together and do laser eyes.
Yeah.
Like that sounds a little euphoric to me. Like we're having so much fun, we're having such a good time that we're all going to put laser eyes until 100K. It without fail, the top is always near when something like that happens.
Like a local high, right? And that's what I was looking for, because I don't, I never claim to be like, I'm just going to hold through because I know these are going to 100X. I bet they will, man. There's a lot of bags that I've already cut early on, got a nice little profit, and I've watched them 10X since. But I am looking for those local highs. I do want to trade this thing. And so when I saw your tweet about that, I was like, damn, he's right. And it was just one more bullet in the chamber. I was like, okay. And I go to sleep Saturday. I did some charts. I go to sleep Sunday. I wake up and my gut was just wrenching. I was like, and then I saw the Bitcoin inflows to exchanges. And I don't know if it was a Gemini wallet or a mislabeling. And I was like, fuck it. That's it. Nuke it all. And a big part of it was that, you just see everyone. It's like everyone's at the party, just having a smile on their face, not seeing the storm that's coming. And you just get that feeling, that irksome feeling that we've all felt so many times before and often don't take profit on. But the laser eyes did it for me, man. And I've still got the laser eyes on. I'm looking around. I'm like, guys, where's all the eyes now? Come on. I thought we were going to 100K. You going to jump up?
I thought we were into this together, guys.
Yeah, we're still going to 100. I'm not ditching the eyes. I'm turning them green, though. I think we should have green laser eyes. This red shit is probably cursed.
Maybe it was the red.
Yeah, not a good look. So I'm looking for green laser meme eyes. I can't find them yet, but I will. And I'm not ditching that. You know what? A 10K pullback. Ditch the eyes. We're not going.
Yeah. So Boomer in chat is making a good point. Laser eyes. It's just like when everybody put Wall Street Bets hair on. We all put Wall Street Bets hair on, but that was the top of all these meme stocks.
GME. Boom. Yeah. It's painful, man. The GME thing hurt because you just got these guys writing these long messages about how they're, my family got hurt in the 2008 crash. Fuck these guys. I'm never selling. And I just thought, dude, you could have fucked these guys if you did sell and took a little money home. That's how you.
But you're up 100X on a meme. Come on.
Yeah, I felt bad. And they're talking about their life savings and I'm never selling because I'm going to stick it to the man. It's like the man's about to stick you so hard, dude. Nothing's changed.
What really blows my mind about that is, there were people that were up millions of dollars from 5-figure options purchases.
Calls, yeah. Crazy.
It's when you think about that and you think about just the level of greed and exuberance that has to be present for you to, turn your 50 grand into $4 million and then not say, holy shit, how did this just happen? I'm getting the fuck out of here. That should happen in a matter of days.
One reason that whoever does that feels like they don't deserve that money. Somewhere like their parents fucked them up. They did something that was like, you are not worthy of this money because otherwise you'd take it. Because like people and when you trade and you get on the right side of something, you get warped really quickly, and like you don't realize in the real world how hard it is to make $4 million.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, well, it's funny actually. I was watching a show the other day, Layer Cake, some kind of Daniel Craig thing. He's a cocaine dealer, and he's all there, and they're fighting and killing over money. He's like, and I took home $1 million clean, and I was like, bro, this guy's breaking the law, risking his life, getting shot at for $1 million. This guy never heard of crypto. Get that 100x on your shitcoin, bro. Like, it's a special thing we're involved in, and you can't. You're right. You can't take it for granted. You do deserve it. You worked hard.
That's
Pay
right.
yourself. Pay yourself, bro. Pay yourself.
Pay
the
yourself
whole way
because
through.
when it pulls back, and like even in crypto, I mean, eventually, like it's going to happen at some point. Like somebody's going to get into Rook when it's at $1,500, and then like it'll go to 3,000, and then they're not going to take the profit, and it'll be at 800, and they're going to blame it on the SIA or some shit. Like,
yeah,
that's not how it works. Like,
let's take a look at Rook. Let's take a look at Rook.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought Rook up because it is back. It's in my buy zone. It's in a zone where, I can. Oh, that's not the one. We want to get that chaos. Look at this chaos level. Let's see how close it was. This thing's been on fire. Pretty close. It didn't tap this time, but we're down at the 618. We are in a reload zone, and it's all kinds of. But what's the narrative now, right? The sell volume's declining. We're coming in and. I don't hear so many Rook bulls out there right now. So it is getting close to a time where I want to load up on some Rook.
I mean, the community is absolutely rioting in the Discord. There's conspiracy theories going around that, SBF is dumping the market, all of this crazy kind
it's
of
that short shit.
Which, we know that guys like that are essentially delta neutral. But still, you've got a situation to where people know Alameda's market making wallet address, and they're just looking at it, and all they're seeing is just sell. But they could be the bid on perps or something like that, and they could be hedging that position.
Yeah, there's a ton of different shit they could be hedging. But it's funny because at the beginning, all I was reading was, the Alameda wallets are loading up on Rook, and it was really loading up because they needed inventory to trade their perp, and they needed inventory to trade the spot market. So yeah, they're loading up on inventory. They're going to move inventory. They might now just be long a shit ton of the perp and instead of the physical. So they're getting out of the coin. I mean, you never really know. But one thing you do know is those behemoths in the market, I mean, they carry a big stick. And to think that, the masses, that the little guys are going to take on Citadel and come out like victorious, not really gonna happen. Not yet. But I don't think Alameda's doing anything like that. They're managing a massive book. They're trading order flow, and
of course they're not. I mean, come on. The real point here is that I'm actually seeing this kind of rage in a lot of these altcoin, Telegram rooms, Discords. I do try to monitor the communities of the things that I'm invested in. And that point where people are straight up angry, they're looking for who to blame, is typically very close to the bottom.
I think we're seeing it in mathematics right there with RT's chart. I mean, you're right. It's at the fucking buy zone.
It hits the zones right around max, anger, capitulation. People are like, screw it, I'm getting out. I'm not going to lose any more money on this. And if you're patient and if you do some basic TA, you join us here in Hero Labs, like you'll see that a lot of the times when these things reverse, it's in a place where we're just been patiently hanging out waiting. I wanted Rook. I really do believe in sort of your whole take on this thing, Messiah, and how it's, we're talking 1,900, like higher. I believe it, and I've heard your takes on it, and but I've got rules, and I'm sitting here. I'm like, I did buy some up through here. I did sell some. I nuked the rest of it on the weekend around 6. But like, despite how bullish it is, I still got to wait for my buy zones, and it's amazing how many times people blame you or tease you. They're like, you're missing out, and then I'm like, okay, cool. See you next month. These things come back so often, and you have to just be willing to miss it if you have to.
50, 60, 70% retracements even on altcoins,
totally normal.
Are pretty normal and end up being pretty good buys. Interestingly enough, another point of confluence is, we've actually just had whitelisting, approved for Rook on Bancor network, and earlier today, we were able to get past a co-investment increase for Rook that blew up the liquidity on Rook from, I think, $2.5 million to almost $14 million on Bancor. So, it is interesting that the amount of liquidity, total liquidity for Rook at this low has doubled from $14 million to $28 million of on-chain liquidity, which is extremely impressive. Good luck dumping it too far through that.
I love how you talk about it as we've got. Like you're talking to me like you're a fucking Rook founder and you're just a Rook whale. I fucking love that.
Well, you got to work for your investments, and that's where I think these decentralized governance opportunities can really shine, because then you've got people that come in that do have a financial interest in something, and because of that financial interest, they're incentivized to go to work. They're incentivized to put forward proposals to a DAO that push forward the protocol, that appreciate the value of their own investment. Which is something really interesting that I'm looking forward to for Hxro when our governance actually gets fleshed out. Is you've got a lot of guys that have been Hxro holders, Hxro supporters for a long period of time. But what happens when we get all these guys together and we tell them, like, hey, you've actually got an opportunity here, to put in some work to make your shit more valuable. It's really interesting to see, and also it's interesting to see, it kind of separates the freeloaders from the people that actually want to work.
Well,
Anything that I ever buy, though, is something that I know that I'm going to be able to put some kind of work forward, to push this forward, whether that's, getting additional exposure, helping to onboard new people to the community. And everybody watching, like, you can do the same thing. You don't have to be me. You don't have to have 100,000 followers to do this, to be a good community member, to put forward proposals, to, generate discussion around certain things. So keep that in mind. You can work to make your investments more valuable, and you should be working. You shouldn't just expect a development team to come in there and do all the fucking work and you get rich for nothing.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And in crypto, you have the most access to do that. And some people, I've even had guys, I've had guys call people out for like, well, you're just putting show posts on Reddit. But you know what? A lot of this stuff is eyeballs. A lot of it is based on users, and what draws users, right? Price action. And what draws price action is users. And how do you get those first one? How do you seed those users? Often it's things like Reddit, like 4chan, like these little dirty, greasy places. And you can write up an anonymous write-up, basically shilling your coin, saying, look, this is a great coin. This is why I think it's undervalued. I mean, make your case and put it out there. And then people come in, they say, oh, interesting. They start to buy. That draws more eyes. Suddenly you've just seeded your own project with 1,000 users, 10,000 users, and it spreads.
I mean, that's what this is. Like this, part of moving going decentralized with Hxro, one of a few reasons, but we're really taking a position, like a philosophical position, that the next like 10, 20 years are going to be about collective or community capitalism in this kind of unique way. Not so much as like socialism, but more as like, if you kind of looked at what 2000 to 2010 was about, is more about like shareholder capitalism and just like creating value for shareholders. The last 10 years really has been about like consumer level capitalism. And this next, kind of leg forward, which is really being led by things like crypto, is really around decentralized networks. You're going to see much larger ones spin up, or, the ones that we're all founding now and building, become like major players in society. And you look at what's going on socially in the world, and like the level of inequality that exists, it's fucking crazy, right? But now, like, anybody in the world, no boundaries, can have a say in the direction of a network. And if you're thoughtful about it and you're vested, you're going to have that opportunity. And it's like the level of opportunity that exists, it is breaking down major barriers globally and letting anybody, like, I don't care what you look like, I don't care what your background is, I don't care where you're from, what language you speak, but like, you have good input for our ecosystem and our society, that's going to get put through. And there is a ton of value, and there's something like amazingly human about it, because humans all want to be a part of something that's larger than them. And like, what's better than that? It's just like one of those kind of Maslowian like baseline needs as a human. So I think these next like 10, 20 years are really going to be focused on that, and you're going to see these networks really scale into something special.
And one of the interesting things, that this technology, or one of the interesting opportunities this technology presents us with, as we move to a potential future based on a token economy, is just the actual ability to have direct representation. Even as a shareholder of a company, you still would likely rely on maybe the board of directors or people that work at the company to make decisions in favor of the company, rather than coming to some sort of consensus with the actual owners of the company itself. So seeing these protocols to where people are voting, to where they're trying to be heard, to where we can actually have a efficient group consensus. It's something that's really promising, for the future, and not just for organizations or protocols or things like that, but even for voting in governments and things like that. We have the technology to where direct democratic ideas make more sense now. We did a representative democracy in the United States, mainly as a matter of efficiency, because it's very difficult to have 300 million people chime in and say what they're thinking. So you have to rely on somebody that you voted in that speaks on your behalf and your best interests, and you have to count on the fact that they will speak in your best interest, and they will act in your best interest, to be heard right now. And that's something that's definitely probably going to change.
Agree.
Now, Dan, I think it was yesterday you said you spoke with somebody, was it Radium or Serum? And I wanted to pick your brain. What did you learn? I mean, what can we glean from that conversation around Serum? I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I know there's Radium is like the new AMM, and I read a really interesting doc. We shared it on our last YouTube video about, how that's going to integrate with Serum. I've been playing around with it. I mean, the fact that this is a DEX, basically a swap protocol with an exchange interface built over it, and it's fast and cheap, like blew my mind. I wouldn't say I've completely transferred over, but I'm probably 70% onto the Solana and Radium this week versus Ethereum. And I went back to make one Ethereum trade. It was like $90. I was like, go fuck yourself, man. Like the cost of doing business is just so high. So what can you tell us about Serum? What do you know?
I think first that it's really important to think about Serum as like, not as an exchange in a very like finite way, but as the tooling and the plumbing to create a massive exchange and liquidity network and ecosystem. And that's why it's so big and so special in my mind, is that like, imagine one day where like, it already is kind of happened, but like where you have the largest equity exchanges globally, or the largest fixed income exchanges for spot and for futures and things like that. And all of the financial products that exist on top of those exchanges, everything from like stocks to structured paper to commercial paper to everything around that. And like Serum is really the plumbing for that. And it started initially with like, hey, a DEX that has a central limit order book, and anybody can go there and spin up a central limit order book market. But the takeaway in the way that I look at it is like, I see it as the future of exchange at scale, and not just like a one-off DEX to trade crypto. Like this thing is going to scale well beyond the way you're seeing it right now. And on that note also, something that I thought was kind of groundbreaking was actually that like in the token, like there's a 7-year lockup for Serum holders, like for mega Serum holders who got in at the beginning. And like that to me was actually really cool. And I actually participate in it, but like I'm totally okay with it, because the idea for it to really come through fruition, this is not a quick buck thing. Like there is something larger, much larger here. And like Hero Network, we're kind of pushing along those same lines. We're going to be doing a lot of composing with Serum, but our focus is really more on like light exotics and derivatives and taking the raw protocols that exist from those, like the things that power on Hero.io, like Moonrect and Tix and Wix, like those engines are all becoming protocols, And then, you know, a lot of what's going to happen with it is we're putting out kind of the baseline use cases for it, but it's, as more builders come on and as the network expands, those things are going to turn into, you know, those are going to power products that we haven't even thought of yet, which is amazing to me. And like that plumbing, that's not going to turn over in 6 months. Like these aren't experiments. These are things that are plumbing that are going to be around for hopefully for the next, you know, 30 to 50 years, and build value and build true plumbing that is like truly decentralized and going to change the way that market, not only how markets are interacted, but like the some of the middling that can get cut out of it, and like the opportunity again for like just the average person globally to access these things, not only access but also create markets and do all these things on it. So it's a really exciting time, and like I think, you know, to really understand it, you gotta be forward looking on it. But the opportunity is so large.
Let me ask you guys this, you know,
Tokenize the world.
People here that are, you know, watching this stream, you know, that might have fucked around with Binance Smart Chain a little bit. You know, most people watching this stream have probably used some kind of AMM, you know, whether that be Uniswap or SushiSwap or something different. But how, you know, and I haven't messed around with this, but I was just thinking yesterday, you know, the opportunity might be ripe right now to bridge over a bit of liquidity to Solana, you know, do a little bit of trading, you know, mess around and be an early adopter of these protocols.
Absolutely.
You know, we see that in many instances, like Binance Smart Chain is a fantastic example. These early adopters, you know, receive disproportionate rewards, you know, relative to the amount of contributions they actually make to the network or anything like that. So, you know, I would imagine as more things pop up on Solana, you know, we'll have more liquidity over there, but being an early adopter right now could be quite lucrative. So for somebody that's played with it, if anybody on the stream has, you know, how exactly does one go about getting liquidity over there, you know, and to maybe provide liquidity for Radium or, you know, to trade on Serum?
I'm really glad you asked, because I finally took the plunge. Now, we've been talking about Solana, Serum, all these things for months, right? Even in as early as last fall, we were like, oh yeah, we're super bullish on this. But I never went, you know, to Sollet.com, SOLLET.io. And
that's so Canadian of you, man.
Soleil. Is it Solette? Yeah, here that would definitely be a French word. I thought it was kind of weird. I was like, why not just Solana? I guess they can't just have it their website. But so I went there.
Whatever makes you happy.
So I went to Soleil. So I went over there.
Soleil from now. That's all I know.
I went over there this week, and I set things up. And you know, that was it. I needed that push. I've got my ledger connected to it. I've populated my wallet. As you can see, you know, you just create wallets. It's a little thing, and you got to have Solana in there first. It's gas. Anyways, I put together sort of a starter guide, because after going through it, I thought, you know what, what's the fun playing over here if not everyone's here?
How do you get a little bit of Solana as gas?
So the first thing you got to do, I mean, for me, it's easy. I can trade on FTX. So I use them as a conduit, right? I had to send Ethereum to FTX. Then I withdrew it as an SPL token, or is it SLP? I always forget, over to the wallet. But apparently there's a bridge right on that, right on this site, Solette.io. I haven't used it myself, but you can basically wrap your ETH right into the chain. And that's a good way to get started. For myself, I created the wallet the first thing. So just say you go to this page, the first thing you see is that the Solana wallet does exist. So you don't have to create that, obviously, because you need some Sol tokens to make that creation transaction. So you start there, and then you got to populate it. So you got to deposit. And so where do you deposit from? I mean, I did it from FTX. I think you can do it from Binance, and you can probably do it from Ethereum. I don't know if there's an ERC20 version of that. That's a really good question. How do you get your first one in without FTX? I did it with FTX, but I know you can wrap with a bridge right here. So I put out this little starter sort of guide for anyone who's interesting. And I mean, I'm farming Ray right now. The yields have dropped off just a little bit. I think they started the week north of 1,000 when it first launched. They were down to 600 by the end of today or yesterday. down to 400, and they're about 350% APY right now.
That's
but I mean, look,
pretty damn good.
It's very good, and it's a very comfy trade. I mean, I think, I wouldn't be shocked to see Ray just kind of bleed out here slowly as the farming picks up and the inflation. I think there's like 11 million circulating out of 550 million, so there should be some inflation. But I'm pairing it with USDT. So the impermanent loss is really like a one-way street, and I may end up with a whole bunch of extra rate tokens, which when I pull my liquidity, I can just swap back to USDT and pretty much break even, with the added farming rewards.
So interesting comment in the chat. Dan S is saying that you can actually convert ETH to Sol through Solid or Soleil. I guess we are calling it Soleil.
Soleil.
Through Soleil.
I misread that.
I'm curious though, can you convert ETH to Sol? I mean, and it's just straight up like, hey, give us ETH, here's some Sol, or is it something to where, hey, I've wrapped my Ethereum, it's in the Solana ecosystem now. How the fuck do I get any gas to do anything here?
Yeah, I misread that actually. You can't do an immediate. You're going to have to swap it. I mean, I would just go to FTX and trade into Solana and put it in your wallet. But I don't know of any immediate function to do that swap to get to Solana token.
Well, what about us fuckers in the US who can't use FTX? We're gonna have to find a different way.
Yeah, that's a really good thing.
I really hope that they would wrap Solana on Ethereum, and even just to have enough liquidity.
FTX US has Sol.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So does Binance. I just confirmed. Yeah, Binance withdrawals are on the Sol. I don't see any ERC20 withdrawals for Sol, so it may not be that it's even.
Dan S in chat is actually saying you get straight up Sol for ETH. So it looks like
nice.
that question has been answered. You can just go to Soleil, give them ETH, and you get Sol.
No, I misread the question, Messiah.
No, Dan S. There's a guy in the chat.
Dan S.
Yeah.
There you go. Got
You're not the only Dan. You're
not Dan the man.
Frazier.
Yeah.
Not Dan Frazier.
So there is a few ways to get your hands on Solana, and really you just need one or two to get started, because once you have those, let me get back here.
By the way, you don't even need one or two. You need like 0.01.
Yeah, I always think in like a little extra never hurts, but I think I've spent like 8 Solana tokens in the last week, and I've probably done, easily over 100 transactions, just farming in, farming out, swapping here, swapping there. I love it. It's so refreshing. It's fast. But the thing is, it is new, right? You have to set aside a couple hours. You have to get your dusty old book out and write down a seed. Like, you can't just fly over there and stay in the same ETH mode that you have been in. And taking that plunge on Monday has been refreshing. Not the least of which because everything related to this token is just mooning. The one thing I said this week, I said, look, I'm becoming an FTT, like a SBF Maximus, whatever you want to say, and then it just happened to be the day that they really took off. But it's Serum, it's FTT. Bonfida has been mooning all week. Like even maps just this morning, or was it last night? I saw this little W come in. I said, I'm just going to add to my maps bag, wake up, because that's what you're going to get right now. And a lot of people are looking at those charts saying, oh, I missed it. Yes, that is a high chart. I don't ever tell someone to like rush in and go buy here at a chaos level at the top, but the local top, but there's echoes, right? There's echoes, and those are where you get it. Like Pancake Swap went nuts. Now Binance Smart Chain projects, it's like, which one hasn't pumped? I'm going to buy it. There's a mania coming. We've seen a perfect test case with Binance Smart Chain, which by the way is centralized, 21 nodes, can't wrap without permission. It's not the solution to Ethereum things. It's a hype cycle. They'll probably still do well, whatever. But this is the first time in over 200 clones where I say, where are they going to be the ETH killer? It's the first time ever that I've been so excited about something where I'm like, I really do see ridiculous things, $100 Solana token. Like, these are the kinds of things I'm starting to really wrap my head around the vastness of it. As Dan said, the ecosystem, the framework, the plumbing for something so much bigger. Maps alone, this app has 66 million users already.
That's insane.
And they're going to be doing a revenue share with token holders through staking. Okay. So, and they show right on their website some different revenues of comparative map, Google Maps, $4 billion in revenues last year. Like the sharing rewards are going to be real, and they're going to be big. And it's like a 50 mil market cap. Like, come on.
I think you just brought up like the best point, or triggered in me. I think this week, the chaos from the market this week, to me, the most poignant, like emotional feeling was from the ETH maximalists. And they went from making all-time high 2000 to now the network came under such stress and pressure where transaction fees, 150, 200 bucks. It was almost like history repeating itself with 2017 with the Bitcoin and the coffee stuff. Like you're asking people to pay 150, $200 to do transactions on all these wonderful apps that have been built on Ethereum. And guess what? It doesn't fucking matter. All these wonderful, great apps have been built, but if the normal people can't use it because it's 150, 200 bucks per transaction, it's a real problem. So emotional, like ETH and ETH tokens, kind of the whole DeFi space just under serious pressure. And then watching Solana and that ecosystem just pump like the bejesus. I mean, ripping and running while ETH is under such pressure. You saw on Twitter, you saw like real emotion from the ETH maximalists. And it's because they really do need to change some things. They need L2, they need ETH, they need it fast.
And people
and because if you find a faster, cheaper net. No, go ahead.
So people want to FOMO right now, you know, and Binance Smart Chain is a good demonstration of that. Solana is a good demonstration of that. You know, in these alternative environments where people can come in and FOMO, we're seeing FOMO on a massive scale because it's just something that's, you know, that's doable. I'd say like you could have 1,000, 500 even, little fish that have a net worth of $2,000-$3,000. They're throwing around little amounts, but if they're all able to participate, these guys can come in and they can seriously move a market.
Yeah, users will go where things are, the cost of business is reasonable, is cheapest. I mean, users are fickle, 10% off at store one, next door, there's a store that's 40% off. They're going to shop there. The loyalty runs very thin when it comes down to your bottom line, which is profit, making money, getting your NFT as cheap as you can. So the writing is on the wall for me, and it's not like an ETH is dead at all. It's more just like there's other things that are coming in and they're going to split the market, and there's going to be an ETH dominance shift, and that's fine. I mean, it's great. That's evolution, and that's going to give more options, and it's going to open things up for developers, and it's going to lighten the load on Ethereum and probably get back to an equilibrium where it can survive, because right now it's really uncomfortable to use. I just checked right now. It's $47 to make a trade on Uniswap. That's like, that's over like 7,000% more expensive than the equal trade over on Solana, for example.
Crazy. John in the chat made a good comment about just that EIP 1559 Berlin, when that gets pushed through, that people will eventually move back to Ethereum. And look, that's going to be the case, like without a doubt. And it doesn't mean that people are even leaving Ethereum at this point.
No, I'm just shifting. I'm shifting because
it's just shifting. It's just balancing it out a little bit. And I do think that you got to remember, like, even the noobs here, you're so early. Like the people that are going to be using this stuff in 15 years from now and 10 years from now, they're not going to give a flying fuck what the L1 is.
Yeah, they're not going to have these pain points. It's just going to be fast. It's going to be cheap.
Just going to be fast and cheap, and it's going to fit the needs of what they need. And so, all of us as founders are making these decisions now based on what, based on a lot of different touch points. But like, in my mind, like Solana is far and away by a mile, like for high throughput, high highly performant, and has the team with the experience to support it. Like, it's the right thing for running for building out trading protocols, without a doubt. It just makes sense from a cost perspective. Like, it's going to continue to scale, and it doesn't mean that Ethereum isn't going to have its place. Like, is it going to have hegemony forever? Like, I don't know.
I don't know that we're better off in a place thus far, which has been entirely one ecosystem. So I'm excited for the growth of it all, right? And so I don't think it should be a bad thing. And if somebody's like holding maximum ETH, I don't think they should be worried. I think it's a really nice development for the space. It's going to be some variety and options. And then, like you pointed out, I mean, at some point, you're not going to know what the hell network you're on. It's just going to be a nice front-facing UI. This is UX. Like this is dial up. And for anyone who's wondering what the hell is just on the screen here, I just posted this in the chat. You guys got to watch this. It really captures what we're talking about in a nutshell. It's basically just this really great analogy of Ethereum and all these clones coming along, and basically how ETH will eventually be fine. But check that out on Twitter. We should give that thing a like, and this guy gets a follow.
I'm a huge proponent of multi-chains and of, interoperability, and that's where it's gonna. That's where you get the most scale out of the network as a whole, and or out of the entire crypto system as a whole, and I think that's where it's all going to end up. So
I will sell my bag when I no longer know what the hell network I'm using. Okay, when we get to that point, right? When we get to that point where my whole house is just pure Wi-Fi, that's from dial-up. Then we can talk about tops. Then we can talk about long-term goals. But for now, everything is just beta, slow, it's sketchy, and hard to use. Try telling one of your no-coiner friends how exciting it is to use something on Solana or Ethereum or anything. They're like, wait, what? I don't know. Never.
Yeah, it's not exciting.
It's so early, and it's so exciting to think.
I do think that one of the driving forces behind this value accrual in Solana and Serum is that what they've nailed first is the idea of low latency central limit order books, the plumbing, as Dan refers to, the plumbing of exchange and real high frequency exchange. That is the most valuable plumbing on a transaction value and volume level of anything. So for them to be the first to master that, the first mover on that extreme low cost, low latency transactional trade, that is volume beyond what we can really imagine, which is why there will be value accrual in those networks that nail that. And Solana, Sam Fried, one of the biggest market makers, liquidity providers, really biggest thinkers and visionaries in crypto. He chooses Solana. They build Serum. That right there, they're building the plumbing for the most valuable transaction fee accrual system in crypto. And that's
and they're not the first zero cost thing, right? I remember the hype when IOTA launched sometime in spring 2017, right? Everyone was like, man, this is DEX, Lattice, zero fees, super fast. But the missing piece for a lot of these quote unquote ETH killers, challengers, new ecosystems is the users. And it's been how many years? And I still don't know one person who uses IOTA. I still don't know one person who's talking about a new hot dApp on Cardano even. And it's, again, this is not throwing shade at any of those projects, but this is the first one where I'm like, we saw it with Binance Smart Chain. They have a ready-made base of users. They have a marketing budget. They have money. They have backing. So there's a belief that it's actually going to take off. It may actually challenge. And that's the same thing you kind of have with this FTX backing. So again, this is my, I'm talking so much about it today. It's our main topic, but it's the first week that I really went from hearing you guys talk about it and us being bullish on it and actually using it. And I'm like, holy shit, I can see it now. I can feel it. So I would just tell people to not be afraid to try something new. It's like bleeding edge tech. At the very least, be in it for the tech. Go around, fuck around with $100, whatever. You can afford to fuck around there with $100. It's like a 25-cent transaction fee or less, whatever. Play with it, learn it, and then make up your own mind. Is this going to be attractive to people, or is this just more window dressing? I don't know. You decide.
Now, guys, we have been here streaming for a bit over an hour now. I wanted to ask everybody that is watching to please hit the like button. If you feel like you are appreciating this content, and also please subscribe to Hxro Labs. We're going to be pushing out a lot of content, including educational videos, other stream variants, et cetera, in the coming future. So go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss that. Hit that like button while you're here. We would really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And if you want to take a look, just last night, let me double check. I think it's here. We talked a little bit about the chaos PRZ last week, and I think it's on one of my charts here. I just want to pull it up because as I was doing that video, I found the algo chart and I was like, holy shit. It's the first time I ever had a tool where I was like, maybe I don't need to share this with the world. This is pretty ridiculous. But just looking back through these cycles on algo, capture that consolidation, ping, take some profit, capture that consolidation, ping, take some profit, reload zone, ping, take some more profit. Like, and then even just this past week, right? Same thing, capturing a little consolidation. You
Holy
can do
shit.
it down. And it's insane. It's a simple little tool. So the last video you'll see on our YouTube is just a little walkthrough on how you can use this. And I mean, this thing, it's pretty fun to use. It's pretty cool. So yeah, it's powerful, and it's easy, right? You want tools that are fairly simple, straightforward, repeatable, reliable. So it's pretty cool. That's our latest video. If you want to check that out, it's a little Chaos PRZ tutorial I got out because a lot of you guys were asking. So
definitely go check that out. You know, it's I've been messing around with it too, and you know, I've seen kind of exactly what you're talking about here. You know, it's a new tool. I haven't really used it before, but you know, when I've been back testing it and you know, learning it and trying to, you know, fit it to different scenarios, the accuracy is pretty stunning. And some of these targets seem like stretches too. So one of the things I really appreciate about the tool is the fact that, you know, mapping out these stretch targets can be really, really difficult, if not the hardest thing to do in an alt season. You know, you have to ask yourself, you know, just because of how parabolic things can go, it's always a difficult decision to sell. You know, you're selling your dreams. You're selling, you know, what if this goes fucking 100x the second I sell? Like, you're selling those things. But if you have some kind of method to your madness, if you have a system to bring some logic, some you know, clear thinking back into that FOMO hype, whatever, it's definitely something that you should utilize.
Absolutely. I mean, even just today, I've been talking about CFI, CyberFi on my Twitter being undervalued. I mean, the fully diluted cap was under, you know, 15 million, and it just went bananas today. And again, you know, got my Chaos PRZ, take a little off. Next Chaos PRZ, if we resolve this level, then the next one's in play, and that's hiding up here under this green box. And I don't know where else I would have had to, like, how do I make a decision of where to sell, like you say, up here, if I don't have a tool? So it's a nice tool to just, you know, and then what do I do with that? Well, I can rotate this into something else. I mean, there's so many things to be bullish on. There's a lot of things that are in dip zones consolidating right now. Rotate, have a little fun with it, trade. I mean, I've got a bag staking here. I'm not going to be out of this one, but it's just funny that even just today, as we're talking this morning, this thing just ding, chaos. And last week, without that, it didn't look too likely. I mean, we're just down here chopping around. You're like, yep, pie in the sky way up here. Bing. Like, it's just fucking awesome. Okay, I've said enough. The video is up. You guys can check it out. I think maybe we'll get back to studio. I better get off screen share here. And shout out to the producer for hooking us up with these.
Pizzy's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
I mean,
look at us.
Back in the office, boys. You know, we've got you know, beautiful Chicago skyline behind us.
I don't think it is. We were trying to figure out what it is.
I know. Looks like we go to Chicago Cut right there in the river. Go have a couple.
But you know, as we wrap this up, you know, I think each of the hosts, you know, we can get some closing thoughts. You know, I'm happy to go ahead and kick that off. You know, one of the things that RandomTask said, you know, at the end of his little soapbox moment there a couple of minutes ago was rotation. You know, and people, you know, and I actually had a guy earlier, you know, in chat that say, you know, oh, you would rotate, you know, strength to something that's not. Well, you know, for me, it's just rebalancing. You know, and I constantly shift from high risk to low risk. And what can constitute high risk is something that's already gone up 5x, something that's already gone up 10x. When you start seeing those kind of multiples, there's a much higher likelihood that some people are going to be willing to part with those bags because they feel like they've already gotten what they came for. So if you ever find yourself, you know, up 5x, up 10x, and there's something else you feel really strongly about, you're looking at the chart, it's down 50%, you know, it looks like a solid buy. For me, I always like to seize that opportunity and go ahead and rotate at least some of that thing that I'm maybe 5, 10x on down to something else, you know, which could have further upside without necessarily that same embedded risk of, holy shit, people are starting to be in some profit here. You know, there's going to be some selling at some point.
Yeah. I mean, as a trader, and it really is up to you, right? What is your strategy? We talked about this in the newsletter. Are you captain of the diamond hand patrol and you're waiting for 100x, doesn't matter what, or you're waiting 3 to 5 years out, you're a VC, whatever. You got to have your strategy. I've got buy zones and I've got sell zones. That's it. And I don't go all in at either one or all out at either one. I like to rotate partials because I know this market can go further than I've ever imagined and dump harder than I've ever imagined. And so when I hit my buy zone, I buy. When I hit a sell zone, I take a little off. And it's just a quick and rinse repeat. And it takes months to see the fruits of that and see that compounding growth. But it's something, it actually took me years to really appreciate it. And it's become kind of second nature now. And I would encourage anyone who's feeling a little lost, maybe like a little all over the map, reading random tweets, not sure what to do with themselves, to sit down, write down a plan, pick and choose little bits from other people's strategies that you like. And then eventually you can turn that into your own strategy.
Agree.
Apparently we're in Berlin, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Berlin confirmed. The Germans.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So my thinking kind of in line with what you two said, and I'll use a little anecdotal story from December and January, but a few of my bags that I had put on some positions, was building positions on November, December. Let's talk about a threesome. It was Avalanche, which is AVAX. It was Polkadot, Dot, and then Cosmos, Atom. And I'd been building up bags, and they were all trading pretty much within $1 of one another. They were all between $3.50 and $5. At one time, they were all right around $4, $4.50. And needless to say, all three of them went through a major pump cycle over the following 6 weeks. But the timing of it will make you fucking want to lose your mind, because you're sitting there, you're watching Polkadot pump, and meanwhile you're sitting in your AVAX and your Atom, and it's not doing anything, and Polkadot's pumping. You're like, well, shit, should I sell some of this stuff and get into Polkadot? That's where all the money's flowing. And then Polkadot stops at 15 cents, and Avalanche out of nowhere goes from $3 to literally $40. And you're like, holy shit. And are you going to chase Avalanche? And then it's Cosmos' turn, and Atom pumps, and all at different times, really, where you see the move. So trying to chase winners and get out of stuff that hasn't yet moved yet, hasn't caught that money flow, it's a dangerous and volatile game. You've got to take a little bit of a longer term view. Don't look for the instant overnight winners as much. If you're doing your research and you're looking into networks and you're buying tokens, you have to have some patience, because you never know when that flow is going to come. And it tends to come not exactly when you're expecting it, because then it would be too easy. But bottom line, between AVAX, Atom, and Dot, they all ended up pumping. They all ended up 4, 5, 6, 7xing, and it's just different times. So you could have easily missed all three of them if you were trying to play hot potato and chase.
Yeah, and same with Ren. I mean, Ren was in a lot of this stuff, it's gradually and then suddenly, right? So you see it breaking out, it's chopping, it's uncertain. There's a dip day, you take 10% off, and then suddenly it's just boom, 2x. Ren's at $1.70, and it's only there for maybe 40 minutes, and there was a chaos PRZ right on it. It was like, if you didn't have that order working, forget about it. You're down 35%. Yep. So coming in with a plan, and I really like your point there. There's always something pumping. Don't stare at the leaderboards and chase the hype. Learn how to spot the signs early. And I really love that about Messiah's stream. He gets into the nitty gritty with projects. Here's some value. Here's something that is undervalued. You can sit on this fairly comfortably, and you'll probably find yourself on the right side of the trade. And that's something that I'm trying to do as well, getting back into more of the fundamentals of projects. As much as I love charts, a little bit of both never hurt.
Professional bag holding, bro.
Yeah.
That is what I always say.
Steal your hands, sir.
You're absolutely, a better chartist and a better trader than me, but, I can bag hold like a motherfucker. And I can take a lot of pain. I guess I'm kind of a masochist in that sense.
I admittedly have paper hands, and I'm not even that too worried to say, like on the weekend, there was some people that were like, really, you're selling? What are you, a bear? And I was like, no, I'm just like, I don't give a shit about my bags. I want to keep this cash.
Did they say it like that?
Yeah. That's how I read. That's how I read saddlebag tweets.
Who are you talking to? This guy sounds like an absolute dick.
Anytime somebody says something that's just like a real saddlebag comment, I read it in that voice. It's
It's like the verbal version of the Wojak. That's how he.
yeah. What, bro? You never use. Nobody uses Solana, bro. I was just like, perfect. I'm early. Thanks for that comment. You know, like it's saddlebag stuff, man. But look, Dan, final thoughts.
Oh, on trading, I mean, I would just say like
on life.
Zoom the fuck out, slow it down a little bit, stay in those solid bags that you're in. Messi's been leading you guys, a lot of you guys, the whole way. Like, just, I think it's really important to just like sit back and look at the big picture. The best crypto trader that I know, like that isn't, running a market making or algorithmic firm, like just to give you context, like he bought a significant amount of Bitcoin in February 2018.
Shit, I thought you were talking about me.
And never, besides you, it never got out of a one lot. And in March of this year, like literally like tripled down. By the way, like also bought very early in Ethereum, bought very early in EOS, bought very early in Hedera Hash. Like I could go on. And the gains that he's made would rival 99.999% of the people that you know that trade, and the other 0.01 that like never hit crypto Twitter, that are probably 10 times the size. Like absolutely incredible. And like there is so much to be said for when you kind of like you gotta have buy-in to founders. You got like we are coming into an age of really where a lot of the technology is moving beyond the experimental and going into the scaling phase, and it's not just Bitcoin and Ethereum. And it's not to say that those aren't not going to be like the leaders for a significantly long time, but there are others. And like, you got to believe in that process and at least have some portion of your book that is like dedicated to the next, 5 to 7 years. It's okay. Like, and it doesn't mean that you can't trade around it and gamma trade around it and use, Wix options to trade against the book, things like that. But like, there are going to be plays that you will make many, many multiples, not 100x in the next 2 minutes, like, but you 100x in 3 years, you're going to do more than that. So it's just like, you gotta have some component of it that you believe in what we're doing here. And I think those are the things that you're going to look back on and really be happy that you held on to.
Yeah, and on that note, I gotta share a sad story as we start to wrap up the show here. And I need to learn that whoever that guy is, that's something that I know. Moonbags rotating out, Trust Swap, probably one of the best performing pre-sales of last year, and I do believe in it, and I believed in it the whole way through, but I couldn't help myself. I was like, I want to rotate, I want to take other things. Today, swap token hit $3.92. That is a 784x.
There you go.
On the pre-sale that I probably rotated out of at an average of 50x, feeling like an absolute god.
So what you're saying is, if you had sold any of that, you would have significantly outperformed all of your trading activities.
Everything.
Through a simple buy-in.
Everything. If I just sat on that pre-sale and never touched it, and even like, and this is why like vesting, like Dan, you said, your longer term play on Serum, you're like, it's kind of serene. I'm just sitting in it. I can't touch it. It's
something amazing. It got me focused in on actually what it does, which got me like looking at the big picture, which got me to talking to Sam about it, which got me to look at Solana, which like
and you're locked in. And I've got some vests going on, and I'm actually more and more comfortable with them because I know now. I'm like, okay, paper hands can't touch me because I can't sell anyways. And we had Jeff on last fall on Hero Labs Live, and he was in here right around 50 and 60 cents talking about the ecosystem that they're building. Now they've got a launch pad. Launch pads are hot. I mean, they're flying, and I got all kinds of faith in them and belief in them, and just a tiny little moon bag left. But you got to hold on to something. So I guess.
I will say, if you got a good bag, the diamond hands are really great, but there's just a lot of times when diamond hands lead to really sore rectums too.
Yeah. Lessons learned in blood, my friend. And I did save a moon bag, and I even, so whatever. But the point is, I think it's a little bit of both, partials, and try to avoid the sore rectums at all costs.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think a lot of people have the actual knowledge to have valid convictions, about some of these things that they're buying. They're deciding to have diamond hands on something that, as a noob or as somebody with limited knowledge, like they've been sold a narrative that's just bullshit. This is just a flavor of the week, hype, like that kind of situation, like rather than something that actually has, blossoming intrinsic value, something that could be extremely undervalued on a relative basis compared to something else that already exists in the market, that's already been rationalized at a certain valuation. And that's definitely like a huge noob trap. Everybody will say diamond hands, diamond hand, diamond hands. But the actual level of conviction that you need to support actually having diamond hands and how that makes sense, requires an enormous amount of research. And not only that, but research is an ongoing process. Things can change on a dime in crypto. You have to be watching these communities. You have to be watching the development team. If you feel a shift in the happenings of a project that changes your convictions, then you no longer have a reason to have diamond hands.
That's right. And unfortunately, sometimes those shifts take place after a large drawdown, and it makes it very hard. And this was happened to a lot of people in 2018. They said, well, okay, 30% pullback, I'm not selling. I did that earlier in 2017 and I got, and then it went up. So I'm not going to sell. And then it's 50% down. Well, I'm not going to sell now. I didn't sell at 30 and then it's 70. And we all went through that. I went through that emotion. I got some friends who did, and they literally said the whole way down, we're going to keep going down, but there's no way I'm selling now because I've held this long. And then you get absolutely washed out, and at 80 or 90% down, you sell. And that's why markets have cycles. It's really fascinating.
No, that's it. There's definitely cycles to these things. And I'm not saying that your job is to go buy, Bitcoin at February 2018 and then like watch it go to 3,000 before it goes to 60. But the point is like there's cycles, and like, yeah, you're in a bear cycle, you should lighten your load. Like, but you're not in a bear cycle right now, guys. Like, we're in a bull cycle. Yeah. And there's no signal, at least in my mind, that it's ending anytime soon.
No, I fully agree. And I think that's, a nice closing thought is that this was most likely high probability leg one coming out party, hitting the big scene. And how are you going to stomach one more pullback in ETH? I think Messiah brought up a really good point yesterday on stream about having that 3 impulses down, and we've had 2. Do we get that third one? How many people are on the edge of their seat saying, if there's any more lows, I'm selling everything? Usually it's that third impulse that gets you. There's your favorite voice, Rob. So anyways, guys, we better wrap it. We're at an hour and a half. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you guys on today. Hope you can come back every week, Dan. DeltaFi, this has been a fresh breath of air for myself here in the lab in our new studio. So thanks, guys, for coming out.
By the way, this studio is just like fucking next level amazing.
It's my favorite thing.
A stripper pole in the back or something, and maybe some TVs to watch. But I am really enjoying our new office space.
Next thing you know, it's gonna be fucking Gutty with the VR goggles walking around.
God, and shout out to that cringy thumbnail. I just noticed it's on the screen there, guys. We're having some fun with the thumbs. Okay, those are done in jest. Those are done in mockery. Like So, hopefully you guys don't take that too seriously. Until next time, guys, we are going to be back on Friday. I'll be back solo for the Hero Labs live stream at 3 p.m. Eastern. You can catch Shitcoin Church on Mondays at 3, and we'll be back here at DeltaFi next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern as well. Until next time, guys, whatever you do, always play from a position of strength. Take care.
See ya.